Okay, let's start over. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for attending our first meeting of the new year. Happy New Year. This is our January 4th Palala Municipal Advisory Council meeting. And it's nice to see a lot of people out and coming to this meeting. We have our introductions that we usually start with. On the left, we can start with we can see you.
Sure. No.
Introduce yourself, okay? And then on to
Dan Lewis.
Dan Lewis,
I'm Dave Shpak. Don Hess.
Robert Juengling,
Zach Hayward.
Kevin Evans.
and in the audience, we
Oh,
have
and
Henry Mayer. He's a little ill.
I'm Henry Mayer. I'm here using the just cause exemption on personal attendance, as I unfortunately tested positive for COVID today, and I'd rather not give that to all of you. But I'm more or less well, just a little tired, so I am here at the meeting at least for now, but I may not be here for the whole time. Oh, and there is no one over the age of 18 in the room with me.
All right. Thanks for that, Henry.
Can we increase the volume? I'm fixing that right now. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Should be noted that was not Ted Williams.
No.
So those that don't know Ted or Mr. Mayor, there's a different name associated with that picture.
Right. The other audience members that we see that on that screen there would be Ted Williams, our 5th District Supervisor in the audience, and Jason from Jason Warner from South Coast Fire.
Yes.
So, as we get going here, do we have any announcements? Anyone? Okay. On our consent agenda, we have our approval of minutes. You'll note that we did table the November 2nd meeting minutes to tonight's meeting. And then we also have some action minutes that I think we're still preparing for our most recent meeting in December 7th. Or are we planning on taking any action on either of those meeting minutes tonight? Or have we completed them yet? I mean, with the holidays and the new year, I don't know if we have or not.
I haven't seen the November corrected November minutes, so I'm not prepared to act on it.
Okay, and then December, we didn't have anybody taking minutes, so we just have the recording, the video. So, what is the council's preference on that? Should we table both of those for now?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Would somebody might make a motion to table the November 2nd meeting minutes and December 7th meeting minutes?
I'll still make a motion.
Okay. Finley, a second on that?
I'll second.
Second by Lewis. All in favor on that, say aye.
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 We'll make it simple.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we move on to our correspondence. You'll see the 2 emails we received this past month. And I added another one to the agenda. It was a mail item that came into our PO box from the Department of the Navy. And they were addressed to each and every one of us as council members, so I passed those all out to you. Next, we have our approval of the agenda. And I thought I'd throw out there if anybody thinks we should make some adjustments on the agenda. Please suggest them, or should we do, I know Deputy Jensen said that the Sheriff Kendall was going to be here in about 15 or 20 minutes, so maybe we would like to put the presentation up ahead of the law enforcement report. Just a suggestion, anybody?
That would make sense to accommodate the sheriff and to accommodate RCMS.
Okay,
And then the other request I would love to make, if possible, since I don't know whether I will make it through the whole meeting, the earliest we can do the organizational meeting stuff, the better for me. But I know there's a lot of competition for the early slots. So
So what's he asking? I didn't hear that.
So item number 10 on the agenda, organizational meeting, he would like to place further up. How about after the law enforcement report? If we're gonna put the presentation from RCMS and then law enforcement report, maybe we could do number 10 after that. That makes sense to everybody?
I don't understand your reference, Robert. Number 10 in the agenda that I have says council members' comments.
Okay, Henry, we're, okay, 8A, I think, under new business.
Yeah. annual-
yes, 8A was what I was talking about.
Yes. Any suggestions on that from the council members? Or do we leave it where it is? Okay, hearing nothing. So we have one suggested edit on the agenda is to move item 6 ahead of item 5. With that edit, can we make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended?
So move item 6 ahead of item 5.
Okay.
I'll
And
second that.
second on that, by Dan?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of that? Say aye.
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 Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So,
And then can I'll make a motion to move item 8A above item 7.
okay. Anybody like to second that?
I'll second that.
Melissa will second that. Okay, is everybody in favor of that? Aye.
Aye.
Say aye.
You might want to do a roll.
On my mic, okay, Finley. Shpak,
No.
Hess.
Who?
Hess. Mayor,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Evans,
No.
and Juengling. Aye. Okay, so we'll move item 8A up above item 7, council matters. Okay, with those edits to the agenda for tonight's meeting, can we make a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the amended agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Don seconds. Okay, Finley,
Aye.
Shpak,
No.
Hess,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Evans,
No.
Juengling. Aye. Okay, then, we will hold off on the sheriff's report and law enforcement report, and we'll give the floor to RCMS. Since you're here in such huge numbers here, we know you probably wanna tell us all about your update on clinic edition, so you have the floor. If anybody has speaker cards that they might have filled out in the back, I can call on you in an orderly manner, otherwise. It would probably be better if I had speaker cards to call you up one at a time. Does anybody have speaker cards that they want to bring up to me, or I should collect from you?
We all want to see some.
Okay, then, so nobody filled out a card in the back. Then let's start with,
Okay, all right.
Mr.
Robert, point of order.
Sure.
Oh, actually, I'll defer to Dave, but I have a point of order on the agenda. It says public comment, and I know that we have some other people in the audience that may not be associated with RCMS that may want to
Sure,
speak under public comment.
I'm working off 2 agendas. I'm sorry, I did miss that. So is there any public input on non-agenda items? Anybody out in the audience? Mr. Bauer?
Let me, move up because I can hardly hear you guys in the back. The speaker system here is not that good. So when you, as a committee or group or whatever you want to call yourselves, started back, having public meetings, instead of just online. I came into that first meeting and I said, we have a really serious problem in law. And the streetscape is going to screw us tremendously, especially my businesses and those that I rent to. And that's the loss of 93 parking places. Said that, you guys did nothing about it. Nothing has ever been said other than Caltrans said when they did some of their investigative work that there was approximately 93 spaces that were going to disappear. We will no longer have parking on the street in Walla. It'll be gone from the streetscape. Those of you that need to park next to a business downtown, better find a hole in the business, not out in the street. So in that light, I found a notice of determination, which I don't think you guys have ever gotten. Have you?
I don't recall, I haven't seen this, what you're talking
You
about.
don't know what the notice of determination is on the streetscape?
It's public expression time, you have the floor.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, it is an environmental document that says whether they had to make a complete environmental impact report or could assess the environmental issues if they were not significant. Well, the first thing they have here is this is a project will not have a significant effect on the environment. Parking is in the environment. That is part of downtown law. So the environmental document is in serious error. Those older folks that need to park near stores won't be able to in the future. Some of the other things that happen in this mitigation measures, none for anything. And this was approved by our state. So we don't get any parking back. We don't get any of our property back if they take it. We don't get a lot of things back. So we're not being treated fairly in this environmental document. You can read through the whole thing. I don't think it was ever given to you folks as a document that has a time clock ticking as of December 22nd. 30-day time period. Hello. If it's going to be opposed, it has to happen in 30 days. That's a pretty serious error. Did we have a public meeting on it, which is mandated? No. What's going on here? Something's getting ramrodded down our throats. And there are a few in this meeting tonight have seen some of that and understand it's really difficult under the town plan. Town plan is being remodeled and going to be taken up again by the Coastal Commission. I don't know what's happening to it. I don't think we've had any public meetings on it. When are we gonna know what's really happening to our town plan? Too much is rotten in the state of Denmark.
That's 3 minutes. That's 3 minutes, John. Thanks.
Okay. Good. Anybody else have any public input on non-agenda items? Okay, then we'll move right into the presentation from River Coast Medical Services. And I think you want to start, Carl, right?
Thank you. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about this. I want to start with some context. If we can go to the next slide. The building that we are currently in, right across from here, was built, John would know better than me, in 1984. And you. It's been remodeled number of times. I don't know if it was originally built to house a clinic or a medical facility. But for sure, the current facility is not conducive to provide medical care of the future. We can still do it what we do today. But as the needs, the medical needs for, or the service delivery need for a clinic is evolving, new tools, new technology, new process, new procedures, new flow of patients as required legally on us. this facility cannot sustain that. It's okay today, but it won't be able to do it 5 years, 10 years down the line. The reason we're trying to do this is our belief, and I think most of the community will believe that for this community to be the community we know today, a clinic like RCMS is absolutely needed and important. And we would fail this community if we don't look at the future 5 years, 10 years down the line, that we need to have this clinic operating for this community to be the community we know. That's the fundamental truth, and that fundamental driver of us coming up with this plan. So it's a addition of 2 levels on the west side. We did, and Jim would go through some of the details. We did analysis through Army Corps as well as some of the other organizations that gave us some guidance on where we can build. And the west side of the existing building is the only possible area where we can build attached to the existing building. We're planning to add about 2,500 square footage on the second floor. And there is a possibility of another couple of thousand square footage downstairs. So it's a 2-story building, same as we have now, attached on the west side of the building. It will add some more facilities besides the clinical facility, like a larger conference room, storage area, which we don't have today. And we have, and as you guys know, on the parking lot, we have, areas we have kept some of those containers that we're storing medical equipment, not kosher, not good. So we're trying to build those into that. So that's the general idea of doing this. Let me go to the next slide, or can you go to the next slide?
There we go.
Who's got the controls?
So by saying west, you're meaning where the driveway is currently going?
Correctly, yeah,
Correct?
the driveway is
Yeah.
going up. And you'll see some of the pictures or the diagrams that shows how that will all work out.
Back,
No, I tried that.
the statement for that slideshow.
Wait a second, I'm gonna redo the show. Sorry, folks.
We don't have a. Think I-
Here we are.
The printed versions alone?
Oh, we do you have a copy of the? I don't have.
Well, yeah, he'll get it. Just give me a second. This was a PowerPoint presentation, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm using a Mac, so. I sent you a PDF. Second email. You did send me a PDF, but it doesn't work. We could try it. Okay, I'm gonna switch to a PDF. It's not gonna be quite as nice, but.
How are you? Did you find a place to park out there? Yeah, but I kind of had it a little bit. That's another problem we have, parking. Have that problem in my house, you know, it's usually.
I had an emergency call from my parents. I just stay on for a second.
You know what, I was really happy they showed up, but I was just as happy when they all left. They ate me out of their house.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so I think it's, two level, as we said. It will give us 50% more, primary care, examination space. And one of the reasons today we are having difficulties is that not only we don't have enough primary care space, but also the flow of the patients are not appropriate. So sick patients and not sick patients are after being treated, coming to the same hallway. And those are not appropriate way to provide medical care. So we went back to the
Next one, next slide.
next slide, yeah. Yeah, thank you. So it gave us 50% more medical space. It will provide some dedicated telemedicine as well as mental health related care. Right now, we are using one of the patient care room for these purposes, and we want to have dedicated rooms for that. It will provide a secondary primary care nursing hub. Right now, we have only one hub, and the building is laid out such way so the nurses cannot see what's happening on the back end of the building. And ideally, you want to have nurses and the medical assistant sitting right next to where the actual provider is seeing the patient. So if the needs be, they could be going in. So if you go to any modern hospital or a clinic, you'll see that it's laid out like that. We will have more space for the providers to have one-on-one consultations or private counseling they need to do to the patients. Right now, we are not able to do that. We also don't have any conference room in this building. So if we need to have a meeting with our providers, our clinical staff, if it's summer, we meet outside. And in winter, we go to EJC building. So we have to stop the clinic and go there. And we are trying to set up a conference room or a classroom so 10, 15, 20 people can be there. We will also have 2 additional accessible toilets. We have 2 toilets. Actually, the building has about 40 people right now, give and take. We have 3 toilets there. It's almost impossible to manage that. We have patients coming in who needs to go to the toilet, give specimen or samples. So we'll have 2 additional toilets that'll be added as part of this redesign and additional space. You can go to the next slide, please. So we are not expecting significant increase in number of patients or providers. No, we don't expect this community to have another 5,000 people moving in here. The community is the community, the demographic is the demographics, the economics of this community are the economics of this community. That's not going to change. So we will not have necessarily more patients. We will not necessarily have more providers. But the tools and technology and the way healthcare needs to be delivered 5 years, 10 years down the line is significantly different than the way it is done today in this building. That's the need for creating an environment where new technology, new tools, new way of providing care with new providers can be done. Otherwise, we will not be able to continue to maintain what we do here. And this site that you will see, which Jim will show, we have gone through probably a year of environmental impacts analysis and studies by a variety of groups and organizations. And the place we have been not necessarily approved, but suggested to do is the only place that works. We looked at the east where we have more space. But that is not buildable because of native lands, water, and the Army Corps of Engineers would not let us build that. The south side is a slope that is not possible, easily possible to build. The north side we looked at, it is possible to build there, but it will impact the helipad, and we couldn't do that. So the only site that was available to us, it's kind of compacted, small, but the west side. So we have done all the analysis. We have gone to the county, the planning group, got the initial discussions held with them, and they looked at all the options. We looked at it, and this is what we have kind of narrowed down on. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And Jimmy, what?
Yeah, it's a little hard to see on this, but this is a site plan. The lightly shaded structure in the middle is the existing clinic, and then the addition is shown on the left-hand side and the west side of the building. And it really is enclosed. There's a landscape area there now, and the driveway will continue in its current location, more or less, and go around the building to the north side. We worked with a group called the Design Partnership, Bay Area group specialized in medical facilities. And they've been very good to work with. They have two designers in the Bay Area. Nico Jocker, who is their local affiliate, is the one that we've had a lot of contact with lately, and she's been helping put stuff together for us. The plan is phased, phase development. The first phase is really only to connect the north side driveway to the parking lot. You can see on the far right-hand side, on the right side, there's a slope going up, or there's an angled driveway going up. That'll connect to the existing parking lot, but it'll also provide better access to the building for ambulances and emergency needs, what have you. The driveway will continue. Okay.
I don't know if it'll show on the screen. Maybe it won't work on the screen. It's not gonna work. Okay, sorry.
I could stand up.
Yeah, why don't you go point it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
Anyway, so the driveway I'm talking about here, this is phase one to connect the existing parking lot and the heliport to the clinic. The main entrance for primary care is shifting over to this area here in the new building. We'll get to that a little later in more detail. But the urgent care will continue at the same location with some modifications. So next slide, please. So this shows the phase two area, and phase one being the driveway. This is to build out the footprint of the addition here. This is the existing building. This is the lower level here. The existing building continues over here. But it's going to be built out so it will be have available area for accessible toilets, more accessible toilets, an elevator, and then other space that can be used for different things, like I mentioned, possible larger conference room, storage area, building services, what have you. Next slide, please. And this is the second floor, and this is the new area of construction right here. And as mentioned, it's going to give us a lot more flexibility in terms of exam rooms, staff offices, more accessible toilets, storage, reception area. The entryway will be along the walkway that exists on the north side of the building under a covered area. And then there will be a lobby area here that will open to a waiting area, and then a conference room here, which can actually be opened up so that an 8 to 10 person conference room can be opened up to accommodate up to 20 people. But this provides a lot of the flexible kind of space we need for the future for provide medical services in telemedicine and personal exam and what have you. It'll also extend over to the existing building. Some of these things will be realigned to fit with the whole scheme.
And Jim, if I may add that by doing this reconfiguration, we would open up more space in urgent care also. And one of the most important thing that we are struggling now is our lab. We have a moderately complex lab, not a hospital grade lab, but it's significantly more complex than what you find in a clinic of our size. Because we are the only one who's providing medical care here. And that lab we have all kinds of latest machines and equipment to do various tests, but the space is so cramped. We are actually concerned that we can continue to get approval from federal government to continue to operate the lab. So we need to expand the space for lab, and doing this, it'll give us the space to expand the lab, almost double the size of the lab, as well as make the urgent care area bigger. So there's more access, more control, more newer equipments. If we need to bring in for emergency medical care, we can put it in. So it helps to improve our ability to provide urgent care as well by doing this, moving some of the primary care on the newer side.
And just to add, that will include having a separate entrance for urgent care. So the urgent care entrance and waiting area will be approximately where the current primary care entrance and waiting area are. So it'll be separated. You won't have urgent care and primary care patients mixing.
Going through the same.
In that small waiting room.
And Laura mentioned earlier nursing up here, so they'll have an area of to really have clear access to all the exam rooms and to assist in the operations. So next, why don't we move to some elevations, which in the next slide.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so this is sort of the view from where we are right now. The existing building is here. And then the addition is here. And it's a sloped roof, kind of a shed-like structure, with windows that look out this way, and then also out over the trees toward the ocean. The idea is not to mimic the current building, but to sort of accentuate its well, barn red, kind of a nice thing. But the new structure is here, and with lots of light. There will be light coming down into the lobby area. There's also area up here for mechanical equipment. And just in terms of that, I mean, the idea is to build this so that it's LEED silver equivalent. So very high level of environmental standards apply to the building. All the windows, all the doors, all of that are very efficient with all the current Title 24 requirements. And then we'll have things like heat pumps that'll assist with keeping the energy costs down for heating and cooling. It also has room here on the existing facility for solar panels. So we hope to pursue grant funding for that. But there should be a lot of electricity generated from this south-facing slope.
And also, Jim, we should mention that as part of this, our intent is to upgrade the existing site so it meet all the newer codes on fire and earthquake related. So we will upgrade those also. At least that is the intent.
And the other thing is that there's been a lot of attention paid to the water usage because that's a huge issue here. And we've been working with the water company to run this by them. And the idea is that we replace all of the existing fixtures in the whole structure as well as everything in the new will be, water efficient. All the landscaping will be water conserving. Our projections are that we will have no increase in water usage even with the additional space. So, that's a good thing.
And the analysis that is done with the water company, they agreed to that, that there will be no increase in water usage.
So, next slide. Okay, so this is the new driveway going up to the parking lot, and this is the view that you would get from there. So, and then coming down here, this will be the entrance into urgent care, and you'll continue under this walkway back to the entrance for primary care back in the new structure. And this is an angled view of the new structure with accessibility at the lower level. There'll be a ramp here for ADA accessibility, and then a doorway into this side for when we get to the time when we're building that out for public use. And another view here from the south side. But the idea is that there will be some screening on these windows to help keep solar gain from the afternoon sun to reduce the amount of air conditioning required. And then the signage will be quite subtle, RCMS. But I think it's an attractive structure, an attractive addition. And it actually works without doing a whole lot of other disturbance to the existing transportation planning. We have a Douglas fir, a pine forest over here of sorts, but that's the only environmental identified area that the biologists identified, and I don't think we're going to have any impact to it more than 50 feet away from that. So that's the project. We think it's got limited impact in terms of traffic, or environmental issues. It's one I think that we could all be proud of once it's completed. The standpoint that's going to provide us the space that we need to serve the needs of the community, medical needs community for many years to come. So next steps, we can go to the next slide. We submitted applications to the Mendocino County Planning and Building Services for a coastal development permit and a use permit. They're doing their initial review right now. We're not exactly sure what's going to be required, but we believe, well, we do know that there'll be a notification on the road of all property owners of the 300 feet. We've got them that ready to go. There'll be an environmental review of some sort. We think we may be able to get a negative declaration. We don't know for sure, but that'll play out as the planning review continues. And then there will be a planning hearing with a public hearing with the planning commission before there's final approval on that. And of course, as part of that, it goes to the coastal commission, whatever additional review that they might require. But we've gotten, the applications are pretty complete. They're pretty well spelled out. So I think, and we had a pre-application meeting with the county planning staff earlier last year, and they seem to be feeling that pretty positive about the proposal we're talking about. So then, of course, we're going to have a capital campaign to pay for it. We've done some rough order of magnitude pricing for the project, and it comes in with a fairly considerable amount of flexible funding there at about just under $6 million. So there's contingency funding in there of about 33%. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, things typically do end up costing many more than you go through the, through the design development, but, we work with funds from putting the price in. So we feel pretty confident we can complete the phases, first phase and second phase with the money that we're projecting.
And just to add, Jim, that, what, in 2015, 16, there was another study was done to build a new facility, completely brand new facility. And that was $25 million down. So this is between 4 to 6 million. I think it's much more doable. More importantly, I think, if we are able to do this the way we are planning, this will give this community a healthcare facility for next 25 years. And that's the important part. Current facility is not going to last. Current facility is not able to provide that kind of care that is needed. So I think something has to be done. And this is probably the most economical solution. So we are looking forward a little bit. Yeah, it's not needed in the next 6 months, but it's surely needed in the next 5, 10 years.
The other major consideration for this plan was how do we keep the clinic operating during the construction?
That's right.
There's been a lot of thought as to how that might happen. So then we're pretty confident we can make that happen without a severe disruption either to patients or staff. So.
And that's why it is on phase. Phase 1, we get the roadway done so we can block off the construction area. But we have to keep the clinic open. Primary care will be open, urgent care will be open. While this construction, so a lot of thoughts have been gone into that have to segregate the construction from the regular day-to-day operation.
So, any questions?
Is there anybody else from RCMS that's going to say anything, or?
Well, I'll just, if I could just add a note, I'm Drew McCauley, I'm the board treasurer in RCMS. And I've been with the RCMS board for too long. I mean, I was around when the $25 million plan came up, and that was a non-starter. And this looks to me as a financial person like a bargain. I mean, I think that the work that's been done in the planning makes a whole lot of sense. And just from a financial perspective, I can assure the community that we have the capability to do this. Of course, it will require some fundraising, but we're not starting from zero either.
That's true.
We have in the last 3 or 4 years since the well-known financial crisis that our CMS went through in 2019, we have rebuilt the financial reserves and stability of the organization. So as the treasurer, I'm quite confident that we have the ability to pull this off.
Anybody else from RCMS? Otherwise, we'll go to Mr. Bauer.
Yeah, I have, I have a lot of thoughts, but let me get to the most critical ones that I have been dealing with in the past, and that's parking. You guys have come up to RCMS Monday morning, urgent care is full, the clinic is full, there is not an additional parking place for you to park up there. You have to park on the shoulder of Ocean Drive, which is their property. That should be converted to sidewalk parking, which is curb and gutter, both sides. These guys right here need more parking. You can see tonight, Sheriff Department had park way up there. If there's anything going on in here, this whole thing stretches out and starts to take up RCMS parking. They lost 4 parking, which they didn't show up here with the helipad because of the closeness of the current parking lot to the helipad to get the helipad approved. So they had to wipe out 4 parking places up there. I don't know how many they're losing going up the hill. But if they go back 2 or 3 slides, there's some additional possible room, and I don't know how environmentally sensitive it is, straight up the hill where the current access comes up, beyond where it turns and comes on the east side, northeast side of the clinic, where they could possibly place some more parking, still maintaining enough distance from the helipad to make that function. And of course, all the trees that have died in there and fallen over, I've taken a bunch out that were actually within a tree's distance of hitting the current facility. You need to remove those. They're dying, they're just a disaster. Somebody could walk out there and get hurt. Even like community parks, same thing happens at the community park with all the pines. I've been out there when parts of trees have fallen right on the tables in front of people sitting across from each other, which could have killed them. And we don't want that kind of thing to happen. We want this to be safe. We want it to be current so that we can catch up to some of the loss of the ability of RCMS to function because it doesn't have parking, because it doesn't have the facilities. There's 10 acres. And, you know, they're finding out that most of this is an environmentally sensitive habitat area that they can't build on. I cannot believe that. This is so important for our community. If we could increase the parking for this general area, Catholic Church for church services, the fire department, which needs more parking, this facility needs more parking, and parking for these guys, even though we may not be able to put the parking right in front of the door, but we could possibly put it out here in this field. Couple hundred parking places would do an astronomical lessening of the difficulty for people to park. And, you know, I know that our town plan is under change. I know that they're under the gun for whatever they can spend. And I'm hoping that we can get some more parking. And so in that light, whether it's hopefully not placed on RCMS's shoulders to bear that cost, but to get some grant money to find parking for our community, I think it'd be wonderful. So keep that in mind, please.
Anybody else like, Mr. Schwartz?
So I just want to commend Laura and the RCMS board for this plan, which is vital for our community. We have been stymied in our medical care by a number of things, one of which has been the inability of that building to meet contemporary needs. And I encourage you as our quasi-governing board to make sure this goes forward.
Yes, go ahead.
Ronald Dollar, the operating
yes.
captain for Coast Life Support in
Yes.
contacted you guys quite a bit. I would also just like to speak on behalf of Coast Life Support in favor of this addition and how, as the healthcare sort of evolves on the coast and we all work together, that RCMS having this addition would very much help us work with them and help us work with you as the community.
Yes, ma'am.
Janice Dalton, Secretary of RCMS. I'd just like to commend the plan for the attention to energy conservation, which is really kind of a big issue for me. And also I think the aesthetics are really nice. That I really like the fact that there was no attempt to just tack on something to an existing building that in a way that didn't make a statement. I think this one does the job and it's really attractive.
Micheline?
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of Mendenhall Health Alliance. I do want to echo my support for the project. I think it's exciting to see anytime that there's expanded access to healthcare in our community. Our community deserves more and better, and I think we have the right people in the community to make that happen. I do, in addition, want to echo John's comment about parking, only because I have seen difficulties in parking there before, so just that would be my only comment to the plans, but I think they look great. I think that our providers need a better, more well-rounded place to function in, and this is gonna make their jobs easier and help them deliver the type of care that they want to deliver.
Okay, anybody else in the audience?
Jason has his hand up.
Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, Jason Warner, South Coast Fire Chief. I think we all know that healthcare in our communities are what define our communities. And so I hope that we can all get behind RCMS and support them and being able to provide the care that we need for our communities.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. I guess we'll bring it back to the council. I just wanted to thank you all for the presentation. That was very informative. I seem to remember years and years ago, there was a presentation that was given by RCMS, and that was through St. Anthony's, or what is it down in San Jose Memorial Hospital? St. Joseph's, sorry. And I don't remember exactly the details of that, although it was quite a different plan with lots more parking going back that way, and I
That was when we were looking into building the hospital.
okay.
That's the CLSC.
It's escaped my memory, it's been so long ago.
That was a long time.
So I guess this has evolved to this now because it is a little bit more feasible, I guess. I don't know, but
Hospital was 100% unfeasible.
okay. So, but anyway, yeah, please, sure.
So as I sit here this evening, listening to this, you know, I've gone over my statistics for the end of the year, and I usually do 4 years in a row. People have to remember, I'm not only the sheriff, I'm also the coroner. And for the last several years, we ran into coroner statistics of 470, 479. And a lot of that was because people were not seeking healthcare during COVID. People were not going to, they weren't dealing with the things that they probably should have been dealing with because everyone was so concerned about COVID and spacing and whatnot. And now this year, we just had this year's completed. We had 370, which is over 100 down from the past 2 years. And that's because people are getting back to that normal routine and they're seeking healthcare and they're making sure that these problems don't become big problems in their lives. They're making sure that their blood pressure is taken care of. They're making sure that, you know, a lot of little things that we don't think about that eventually cause a huge problem. And that also puts that strain, not only on the healthcare system, but it puts it on EMS with our BLS and ALS ambulance services. It puts a bigger strain on the entire community. And so when we have projects like this where they can serve more on the front end, a lot of that ounce of prevention is worth the pound of cure. And we're coming out of that time now where, I mean, it was expensive for the county, it was expensive for me, it was expensive for young deputies like this because Joe Average Coroner's case takes us, after we respond, after we get there, not counting the response, it takes us 6 hours. He's gonna lose almost an entire day. And so this is one of those things where I look at it like that ounce of prevention. And so many times we look at these things, you know, with 33% contingency at $4 to $6 million, but it won't be that way 10 years from now. It'll be a lot more. And do we want it to start today or do we want it to start 10 years from now? And I mean, once again, I absolutely believe everything that John's saying, because I've driven up here in the daytime, yeah, it gets a little packed, but at the same time, I think that this is one of those things that's going to reduce those risks. It's going to reduce coroner's investigations. It's going to reduce a lot of different things for us. And we're in an area right here where a lot of the community is Asian because people move down here for a reason. It's the most beautiful place on earth. We don't want them to have to uproot because they can't get services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Anybody else, or before we go back to the council?
I have something.
Yes, second.
2 things. I think this is very much needed. I like how it looks and I like all of the aspects of it. The only thing I'm thinking about is staffing. You know, I know that even right now, RCMS is short-staffed with the building that they have. If you're gonna add, you know, up to 4,000 some odd square feet, 2 levels, how much more staff is needed to maintain the equipment and that square footage? Is it something that could, you know, mess up the the process when the rubber hits the road and there's not people to staff. It's like building a pharmacy and don't have a pharmacist.
So, yeah, I think the assumptions we are making here is that this community is not significantly growing.
Right, right.
So the number of patients and the providers are going to be pretty much similar. It is just going to be much more functional,
Sure.
more space for each of the nurses or the nurses center. So would we need some additional staff? I'm sure we would as we finish this in, you know, in phases. But it's not going to be significantly higher need, because the number of patients will be still similar or same. It's just a newer way of delivering service, newer tools, technology. So yes, we will need some, but I don't think it is going to be significantly different.
And I figured as much. I just want to clarify because you know, staffing is always an issue.
But I think my notes first.
Go ahead.
You need to be aware of the fact that RCMS is not alone in needing staff. Every single business on this entire coast
Yeah.
is short staffed, and part of that problem is lack of
Housing. Yeah.
which you are supposed to be working upon.
Well, let me check my notes here.
But to say such, to bring this to the point of RCMS makes it sound like this is their problem. It's all of our problem.
That's not what I was saying at all. It was just, it was a logistical thing that I wanted to talk about because it shouldn't be RCMS's problem. Like we should have the capacity.
Let's just take further comment from the council at this point, unless we have also.
I
Go ahead.
just wanted to say that we've actually come up with our staffing recently at our CMS, so that it's pretty close to where we want. So we're actually doing much better.
Zach, just to touch on what you're thinking, I understand what you're saying. One of the points I think is important to bring up here is the fact that urgent care is gonna have its own waiting room. Right, so
right.
a lot of the capacity, we're gonna, in this plan, it's gonna really give that ability to keep two separate units going.
Like relieving pressure.
Right, and because I know right now, I've had to wait outside with my sick kids in the sun or in the rain, because they were sick, not wanting to get anybody else sick. So I think that this is going to definitely improve, by giving that space, it's gonna improve people's experiences. It's gonna improve their intention to come back to the provider. So I think for me, I go in there and for appointments and see how jam-packed it currently is. You know, some people have to wait longer because they're waiting to get into a room, waiting for a room to get clean. So I think that this is just overall helping satisfy the existing and then just trying to expand it.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I think this is great hearing from the younger generation here. I really do. Mr. Evans, want to speak here?
Yeah, first I want to commend RCMS and Design Partnership for coming up with a very, very beautiful plan. And I think you're addressing our sustainability and our energy conservation here on the coast. And I commend them for that. Couple questions I do have. One is, as part of your new construction, are you looking at bringing the services in the Elaine Jacobs Center back into the main RCMS facility?
Well, the only service that we have in Elaine Jacob are administrative functions. We don't provide any clinical services there. So no, there is no necessary intention of, you know, moving Elaine Jacob Center's activities into the new building. It is possible because we'll have a little bit more space, but you know, we have our HR function there, we have our the grants management function there, our billing function there. Those are isolated and they could be an offsite location.
The reason I mention that is because I find that a lot of times there's a lot of cost savings with unified services all in one facility and not in satellite areas. And the other is as we just mentioned, housing is maybe the concept of remodeling the Elaine Jacobs Center to be staff housing.
We have thought about some of those, so I think we just want to take one step at a time.
Sure, I understand. What is your time frame on phase one?
If we get all the approvals and some of the capital campaign, we would like to start in the next 12 months. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, that was spring 25.
Okay. And final, because we'll be able to hear this again, because as part of the CDP process, you'll have to come back to GMAC as part of that review process. So we look forward to hearing your presentation again. But thank you for coming out this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hess would like to speak.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about resiliency. I like the fact that, you put in solar panels, you can use heat pumps, so you're gonna reduce your energy needs, and, well, maybe not necessarily needs, but consumption perhaps, and also providing some of your own energy. But we know we're in a changing climate. It's undeniable. We're looking at, potentially more and more severe storms, heat waves, God forbid, fires in this area. What about this project can improve the resiliency of the facility in terms of keeping it running during any potential major event around climate? So I see you have solar panels, using heat pump technology, that's great. It's not quite enough. I'm concerned about how do you keep this facility running when we lose power?
Right. So
Without necessarily burning fossil fuels.
correct. Yeah. So obviously, technology plays a key role in this, right? As the technology improves, whether it's heat pumps, solar energy, renewable energy, our plan is to be with those technological changes and maintain the carbon footprint as low as possible, no more than what we have if we can reduce it. But one thing needs to be kept in perspective here. Ours is a healthcare providing entity. Under all circumstances, we must be operating. So if you remember a year back in the storm of January, we became a field hospital. We remained open 24 hours, 7 days, not quite 7 days, for 3 days we were open. And we ran our generator all the time, fossil fuel burning generator. That was not by design. That was the absolute need. We saved 2 lives that day, those days, that they couldn't get to the hospitals. And we kept them there one for 6 hours and one for 4 hours, saving their lives. So I think we have to balance the need, the medical need of the community with the carbon footprint we have. With our intention is to minimize the carbon footprint as technology provides the tools and process and procedures.
Okay, to that point though, are you considering battery storage so you can store some of that solar energy?
Yes.
Which you're probably producing more than you need during the day.
Right, yeah, so we are looking at Tesla Firewall or Tesla, whatever the battery, it also dependent on our analysis of the architecture's analysis of our power needs and how much we can. So yes, we are looking at, so we would not like to add a bigger diesel generator here. We would like to have other options that has less carbon footprint to maintain that in those kind of emergencies. But there is a time between where those will be in place and where we are, and we have to kind of work through that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Melissa? Stanley? David?
Really briefly, thank you very much for the presentation. This is a privilege to hear your work. I appreciate the thoughtful approach. Virtually every aspect of the project's been very carefully considered, at least with this brief introduction to it. I'm glad to hear that you're living within cost means. I mean, you have a steep kind of a branding curve to stay on top of, given the challenges that RCMS has weathered financially. And I believe this is the type of work that continues to build RCMS's brand in the community from a financial standpoint. So congratulations there. I'm particularly grateful for your consideration in the midst of medical, ultimate medical needs that you have given good thought to ways to make the carbon footprint as small as possible, to deploy best available technology and prepare yourself for changes in technology over time. But also do your best with minimizing the impact of the footprint. This is a community that really appreciates this place, that appreciates the natural resource values that are here, and appreciates the aesthetic qualities of the place. I'm very impressed with what you've done, and I look forward to your continuing success in the enterprise.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks again for the presentation, and it looks very doable, I think, given the constraints of fundraising in this, you know, in our times. I have to say, I was there a couple days ago in urgent care when the power went out, and I was totally impressed with how fast that generator kicked in. It was split seconds, you know, and I couldn't have counted to 3. So if you can keep that level of reliability going with the new facility, you know, more power to you.
Thank you.
Oddly enough, I was also there and also quite impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, say that again, Harry?
I said, oddly enough, I was also there when the power went out, and I was also quite impressed.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the council or last minute comments from the audience? And thanks again for the presentation. We look forward to future presentations on this, and best of luck and any last minute thing. Okay. Then
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks very much.
Nice job.
So then, thanks again to the law enforcement folks, for switching around with this presentation. And, hello, Matt Kendall, happy new year to you. Glad you can make it down, and,
I'm sorry, I was running a little bit late, Robert. I had a little cough back there, but I'm getting better rapidly now. I got a bottle of water.
Mr. Jensen warned us about it, so.
I'm gonna ask Mike to go over some of the calls that they handle this month down here. And I've got a couple of things to go over afterwards.
Okay, and then I'm sure you'll introduce us to another gentleman here too.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Robert, Michael, hang on a second.
Yes.
John
Yeah,
and Ara, we
yeah.
appreciate the desire to have a conversation, but it's a small and live room. So if you would, please, let's allow the law enforcement report to
Thanks,
proceed.
you guys, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. So happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone had a great New Year and a wonderful Christmas. We did experience a reduction in our calls for service. We went down to 16 calls for service with the southern coastal communities. There was one arrest made down in the Main Street area of Point Marina for numerous drug charges. No arrests were made in the whole area. Numerous traffic stops I coordinated with some of the CHP officers during the maximum enforcement period, and we slowed traffic down exponentially throughout the month of December and coming in here to the new year as well. Breakdown of our reports, we have one coroner's report in the South Coast area, one theft report, traffic collision in the city of Point Arena, and 2 CPS cross reports, the arrest report for the following drug charges in Point Arena, and then we had 1 shots fired report as well. So it's been just slowly dwindling down as it gets colder with our calls for service, the rain definitely kind of keeping people inside. Just ask people to continue to drive slowly and be cognizant. You know, I almost hit a deer on the way over here.
Between the same guy.
He took between me and the AT&T guy, he got out with just his tail, so. If you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer anything again.
Thank you, Michael.
Question. I was reading the ICO that came out today about a GSW.
Yes, sir.
Was that
so
something that you guys have handled or?
It's currently an active and fluid investigation. I have been working on it. I've served some search warrants. I've also went down to Sonoma County and spoke with the victim and the victim's family. I can't release too much information as we're still working through that, and I'm working with our investigative services bureau as well and other entities to try to bring this to a close as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
And that one's kind of one of these tricky cases where an involved party is a juvenile, which kind of,
Yeah,
it ties our hands immediately as well.
absolutely.
So just a few things. On the 21st of January, my undersheriff Darren Brewster will be retiring. And, after 34 years together, he decided that he likes his wife of 22 years much more than what he likes me. They say that breaking up is hard to do.
Come in second, Jeff.
Yeah, I came in second to his
Yeah.
wife, and I have to admit, she is much more attractive than me, so. Therefore, I'm going to be appointing Lieutenant John Magnet as my undersheriff. John is a South Coast resident, he lives in Elk, and we were lucky enough that, I'll let him get into that a little bit. We were lucky enough that when he retired from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, he was seeking the most beautiful place on earth to live, and of course, he found Mendocino County. And John's experience and knowledge are completely unmatched. He has served in a similar position where he was the assistant chief of a contract city in Riverside County, a city of about 100,000 people. And so there's a lot of parallels to Mendocino County in what he was doing. I went over and I apologize. I was going to have my end of the year stats and my address put out last week. But after all the kids came home, they brought more than smiles. They also brought me the flu, and I was down on my back for about 3 days. And so I'm running a little bit behind. I'll get that out tomorrow. But just a couple of things. Calls for service in Mendocino County over the last 4 years, we are down 10% from where we were 4 years ago. And I think that's good. Homicides, I believe we had 8 in 2021. We had 3 in 2022. We've had 6 this year. Sadly, 3 of those, 50% of those occurred in Round Valley where I'm from. So roughly 3% of the population gave us 50% of the homicides. Robberies are down. Our crimes against persons, which include assaults, felonious assaults, misdemeanor assaults, domestic violence, and things like that. Domestic violence is down, but our standard assaults, they've stayed pretty static over the year. And I'll have all of those stats that I'll put out at some point tomorrow. I've got them compiled in there on my desk. Anyway, I wanted to introduce John and give him just a couple of minutes to talk about a few of the things that he's done. He's only been at this for about 40 years now, so he makes me feel like a pup at 34, so.
I've only been employed by the county for 15 months, but, as you said, I retired out of Riverside County, thought I was done with law enforcement. My sister-in-law lives in Sonoma, so get the wife closer. Never thought I would come back to law enforcement, but came back, and it's between the military and this, and this is all I've ever done. This is why I know. I've come from a large family, and we were taught how to take care of ourselves and make our way. I love the coast. Like I said, I have some acres up in Elk. Never thought I would have to be able to afford it, but we live out there, we love it. We try to get involved in different events. I'm excited about this job because, as you said, population the same of the city I had, but we had 17 contract cities. So I was able to go from one to another. So it's nice to come to a department where I know a face with a name. I don't have to look at a name tag. Yeah. And there's similar problems, just on, a little less level here or there, but we can address it. And I think between the sheriff and I working together, I think we're going to be a great team.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome and congratulations.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, and I kind of wanted to give some kudos and accolades to our chief probation officer, Eisen Locatelli. With the Humphreys decision and the zero bail lawsuit against the state, basically, we had to put in a pretrial release program. And so Eisen and I worked very closely on that pretrial release program. And what it did for us was we were able to give our judiciary, our judges, solid facts about the people who have been arrested. And it allows these judges the opportunity to really go over more than just factors in aggravation and factors in mitigation, which are presented by the district attorney and the defense, right? Up until that time, the judges had to listen to those arguments and make a decision, but we're giving them more facts now with an in-depth investigation into a person's background and a scoring system where we can somewhat predict whether or not we're going to have future violations. And the judges are making a decision at that point about whether or not this person is going to be released on his own recognizances, released with supervision, or not released from the jail. And so currently, our jail population is down by almost, well, just about 1/3. We used to run 315, 318 in a facility, and that was our absolute maximum. Now we're running in the low 200s. And here's the good part. Out of all of the releases that we have had less than 1% who reoffend while they're out. And everybody talks about recidivism and things like that, but after working custody, and that was yet another reason why I wanted to make sure I chose John. John worked custody, and if you haven't worked custody, you probably don't belong in my position or the undersheriff's position, because that is 50% of your job. But having worked custody, there are a lot of people where we talk about recidivism and repeat crime and things like that. But people forget about, there are a lot of people who make one mistake in their life and then truly decide, hey, that's not for me. And I've seen more of those than what I have seen people repeating over and over and over again. And so, yeah, we do have an issue with recidivism in the United States, but it is not as big of an issue when you look at all of the people who have one hiccup, one mistake, one arrest, and they never repeat it. That is actually, that's not the exception, that's actually the rule. So anyway, I think we're doing really well there. And the other thing that allows us to do, when that inmate population is down, we get more services when you have the smaller population, because you've got this bucket of services, and let's say it's 5 gallons. And if you can provide 5 gallons to 318, everybody gets a small amount. If you can provide 5 gallons to 2/3 of that, everybody gets more. And so we're working right now with the college. We're working with Red Roads through the Homo Nation. We're getting a lot more services, including alcohol and drug treatment programs and things in the jail right now. We're getting education, and I hired Buffy Barossa, one of our local tribal members. She's worked for the county for years and years, and she's done an excellent job. She's an incredible mix of that mom who loves everybody, who will put up with no baloney. And so she fits in really, really well. And I think that this year we're going to see some really good things come out of our programs in the jail, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Right on.
Don?
Yeah, thanks for the report, Sheriff. It's really interesting to hear the progress you guys are making. But real quickly, could you just briefly explain what the status of the new jail is?
The status of the new jail, the board passed us to move forward on it. We were able to took a loan from the Measure B to make up the gap in funding. And I have been pushing and pushing and pushing as hard as I can on the state, because the state provided us roughly 25 million in the beginning and said, well, this should be about a $25 million project, and you're probably going to have to come up with 1 to 2 million, okay? So that's roughly 4%. Now, after COVID and the price of everything went up, the county is now putting a bill for 40%, and I don't think that that's okay. I think that the state of California moved this legislation out because they have pushed a lot of their responsibilities off on the counties and on local government. They have, and that is just a fact. They pushed the responsibility of the Department of State Hospitals off on us. They pushed the responsibility of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation off on us with AB 109, with all of these different things that they're pushing through. They're saying, okay, the locals need to handle it. Okay, well, if the locals are going to handle taking over what you should be doing, and they should be doing this, then we need to be funded for it. And when it turns out that, you know, if they were going to pick up 96 and we were going to pick up 4%, my push with them is, now that the price is no longer $25 million, but it's $40 million, fine, let's have the same 96 and 4% split. But I have not gotten a lot of traction on that, and trust me, I have spoken with legislators up and down the state. But we are still working on that, and I'm hopeful that we will get some traction. There are a lot of sheriff's offices who turned down their 844 jail because they couldn't afford it. And now granted, the state did not just hand out money to us to do this. They agreed to sell bonds for us and then fund us. But all of these agencies who turned down their jail, why don't we, who are actually going through it, get a crack at that bond? That seems like it'd be much more fair to me. And so when you speak with our elected representatives at the state level, please carry my voice. I know that our board of supervisors, they've had conversations with them as well. We just don't seem to be getting anywhere. And the jail that is at 951 Low Gap Road right now was built in 1985 when I was 16 years old. It was only supposed to last for 5 years. And here we are now. And I'm telling you, both of us looked a little better when I was 16, me and then Jim. So, you know, this is one of those things where 100% of the board said, yes, we absolutely have to do this. We can't afford not to. But how do we do it? And God bless those folks. I'm certain that they spent a lot of restless nights trying to figure out how to get this done. But I think if all of the communities come together and put a push, and here's the thing, I am not embarrassed in the least by any of the work that we're doing in the jail. I think it's good work and I think it's God's work. I do. And we should be supported in that. And everything that has come down the pipe over the last, well, since basically 2011, has been a push for the state to push responsibilities off on the locals. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that we do a better job here than what they do in state prisons. Hands down. We have more success stories walking out the door. Excuse me, I get it. It came back. Don't worry, it's not COVID. I've tested about 50 times, so. However, we need to really push on our legislators and say, this is not fair to these small counties. I mean, our general fund, we're to have. My apologies, that hits me about every 15 minutes for some reason.
Yeah.
You have any further questions?
Yeah, well, I had a much simpler question for an answer anyway. When you talk about the reduction in your inmate population, are those pretrial,
Pre-trial.
post-sentencing? Okay, those are just your pretrial
Those are
numbers.
just pre-trials.
What are your post-sentencing numbers like?
Post-sentencing, we're still up there because when a judge hands down a sentence, you are going to be there. You know?
Right.
And well, but post-sentence is where we actually get the most work done because
Right.
those folks over there to get milestones, early releases, and I mean early releases by 8, 12 days. These are not massive. We're not turning them out 6 months early. They have to accept education. They've got to do different jobs and they've got to do this different work. And then the other thing is no one wants to sit over there and do nothing. It's very fulfilling for a lot of these guys to have these jobs or to take these college classes. And we have standard classrooms where they go up and they take their classes. And I think that they enjoy it. You know, everybody wants to do something that is worthwhile. You know, I like to swing a hammer when I'm not working. I like to build things. I like to build fence. I like to see the fruits of my labor at the end of the day. So do these guys. So
I was just curious as to what the numbers were. How many post-sentencing people do you have in there?
what do we got right now?
Wing 3, which is our full sentence, is running about 60 people, 60 to 80 people, depending on.
Oh, that's fairly low, actually.
And
For a county this size.
Buffy, our inmate services lady, has started a new program for re-entry into public life.
Right.
We bring people in, we donate a lot of my old students, we're getting donations. So these people can practice interviewing for a job, get the services they need to look at when they get out there. And she's averaging like 10 to 15 people per class.
Yeah.
I'm hearing great things about it.
Yeah, it's turning around.
Well, and she's a force of nature. You can work with her, but you're not gonna stand against her.
I agree.
Yeah, you can step out of the way of a tsunami, but brother, don't stand there and try to saddle it up and hold it back because you're probably gonna lose. No, she's really incredible, and I couldn't be happier that we were able to hire her when we did. And she's just been really wonderful for us. She has the respect of 100% of the inmate population. She has 100% of the respect of the staff. And I think that everybody believes in her work. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Career gem.
I get the feeling, there's a huge tribute that you deserve too, Sheriff, because of the programs that you have told us about at these meetings, the work programs you do for the inmates. All of you are, it sounds like you really have a handle on how to get some of these inmates in a new life, you know, and
Well, Robert, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret.
I hear some,
I love keeping bees. And if I go over there every Friday and keep bees with these guys, I know I'm teaching my class, but I'm also doing a little bit of what I want to do as well, okay? So it's that spoonful of sugar that makes the rest of the week go down.
Okay, great.
It's a long drive home. Any other questions?
Thank you. No.
I don't know, I don't think so. Any
Jack,
back to the
good
audience?
seeing you.
Good seeing you too.
Thanks, gentlemen.
And
Happy
welcome,
New Year.
Sean, to the coast.
Happy
New Year. Hope you feel better, man.
Bye, Michael.
Have a good evening.
Everybody, thank you.
Good night.
See you.
Come in.
Wow, okay, what time are we at?
Almost 7:30.
7:30. Okay, so we've gotten through the presentation, law enforcement. Henry still with us? You had us move, or we
AA.
we made 8A to be next year to help Henry with his situation. So how do we want to go about our annual organizational meeting? Can I suggest something? Maybe that we entertain some nominations for the different positions, or where do we want to go? Anybody want to chime in on this?
Well, you're the chair. I'd say we'll follow your lead.
Okay. I don't like to do it on my own, but thank you for, I will say, I'd like to nominate, I mean, I felt like a huge load was taken off my back earlier last year when we, had Dan volunteer to become the treasurer. So I'd like to nominate Dan to be the treasurer again, if he accepts.
Yeah, sure.
Do you, one question here, do you think we should start in the opposite direction?
Oh,
Because it's possible that Dan would be nominated for a different position instead. So I don't know if we need to sort of be cognizant of, it might make sense to just sort of go, I don't know, in order of importance to the extent that we see it that way.
okay. What do you guys all think? I just thought it was kind of a load off my mind. I know we need a secretary. I mean, if we're heading in that direction with our new bylaws, I don't know. If
Yeah,
we do that yet tonight, but I know it'll come down to the president, the chairman and the vice chair towards the end, or we could do it in the beginning. What does everybody think? This is for us all to decide upon, not.
What are you suggesting, Henry? Are you suggesting we start from the lowest tier to the top? And so
no, I mean, I was gonna nominate Dan for secretary, which seemed, I don't know. I don't think we should. Think we should maybe go through nominations first and then do votes, as opposed to making a decision on a position and then maybe finding out that we might want that person for a different position, if that makes sense.
Okay. So let's hear all the nominations first. Is that what we're getting at? Yeah, let's hear nominations then. Okay. Any nominations for chair?
Yes.
I nominate Robert.
Any other nominations for chair?
I couldn't hear him, I'm sorry.
Oh, I nominated Robert.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm sorry about this speaker problem here, that we can't hear people on Zoom. For some odd reason, my monitor speaker is not working correctly this evening, and in the middle of the meeting, it's kind of hard to fix something like that.
Yeah.
So I did what I could, that didn't fix the problem. So my apologies. Hopefully next meeting, this problem will be resolved, but I can't really fix it right now.
Don, you're doing a great job, so thank you. Thanks for doing it.
Okay, just
It's working out fine.
what's going on here.
It's working out.
So can people hear me or no?
Yeah.
Yes, but only through my laptop speakers, so it's not great, but yes.
Gotcha.
We more or less can hear you.
We can read your lips on the big screen over here.
So point of procedure question then,
Okay.
Robert, if I might.
Yes.
Is the procedure you would like to have multiple nominations or as many nominations that happen for each particular office? Or do you want to proceed with vote on nominations individually?
I would say, let's nominate for the different positions and we'll go back and vote.
Okay, I'd like to offer a slate.
Late, okay.
I would like to nominate Kevin as chair. And because I don't want Kevin to blow in the wind by himself, I'm gonna nominate myself as vice chair. I'll offer my hand at the wheel there. I'd like to nominate Henry to be the secretary. And I'd like to nominate Dan to continue as treasurer.
Okay, anybody else like to nominate anybody for certain positions? Or a slate, however you wish. Melissa?
Well, I thought Don did a really good job as vice chair. If he wants to do it again, I'd like to nominate him.
Who were you referring to?
This fellow.
Don.
As what?
Speaker, with the microphone over there.
I heard you nominate Don, but I couldn't hear what it was for. I'm sorry.
Right.
For vice chair.
Any other nominations from Melissa?
I'd nominate Robert, but that's already for chair, but that's already been done, so.
Any other nominations from anyone?
If it wasn't already clear, I'd like to nominate Dan for. I'd like to nominate Dan for secretary.
I would decline that nomination. Thank you.
Fair.
I could feel it.
Okay, anybody else like to nominate for any of the 4 officer positions?
So I have a question. So we can decline the nominations.
Absolutely.
Okay, I would like to decline my nomination for vice chair, basically because, you know, I think I do enough here with all this tech stuff and things, spending extra time, coming early, staying late, doing the website, recording the videos, putting it up on YouTube. You know, I spend quite a few hours every single month. So I don't really want an additional load on my responsibility. I hope you understand that. Good point.
I'd just like to offer my congratulations and thanks to you for all that you do. We are functioning today because you're taking up this load, so many loads. And so I'm very grateful to you. Totally understand your reaction to a nomination, and I hope that we don't scare you off of all the stuff that you're doing. You're really magnificent. I really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Here.
And of
Yeah.
course,
Here.
I still want to be able to participate fully.
Yeah.
But I don't feel I need a position, a formal position. That's all.
Okay, so Melissa had nominated you for vice chair. I think it was David.
Correct. Yeah. So I will be fine on that.
Okay, and
But thanks, Melissa. I appreciate
and David had nominated you for treasurer, right?
No, that's incorrect.
I had Dan for treasurer, I'm sorry. Okay.
Correct.
Melissa, do you want to make any other nominations? How about Dan, would you like to make any nominations?
What I was going to say has been covered.
Okay. David said his, Don, you said yours, correct? Nominations.
I didn't nominate him.
Okay, and Kevin, you made yours. Or did you?
No.
Okay.
I'm fine with the discussion of the council, so.
Okay, so, do we want to go through with both then on the different officer positions? Starting from the top, starting from the chair, or for starting from the treasurer? What do you all suggest?
I think we start on.
Okay. Who would like, to nominate? Or who would like to be, Kevin to be chair? Okay, we have 3, 4 votes.
Wait, sorry. I did not hear that. What was that?
The vote is for the chair
For
position, and the first question was, how many are in favor of Kevin being the chair?
And there
Okay.
were 4 votes on that. It was Dan, David, Dave, Don, and Kevin. Okay. Then, we have vice chair position. Who would like, there was a nomination of only Dave as the vice chair. Well, how would you
well-
like to vote on that?
Are there any other nominations?
Any other nominations?
I would nominate Robert for vice chair.
Okay. Any other nominations? So we'll take a vote then for David as vice chair. Who would like to vote for David as vice chair? I see 1, 2, 3. And okay, who would like to nominate Robert for vice chair?
You mean?
Who would like to vote for Robert as vice chair? I see 1, 2. Henry, 3. Okay, all 3 vice chair. How about on secretary? Do we have any other nominations for secretary? Other than we had a nomination from Dave for Henry to be secretary. Do you want to accept that, Henry, or do you want to stay parliamentarian? Not that that's an officer position, but what is your plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because it really needs staff support to be done in a reasonable amount of time. And so I can't replace what Mary was doing. If it's just putting together the minutes and distributing the agenda and such, if it's what the council wants, I'll accept it with a great, with some serious reluctance. But if anybody else who is eager for the position and has the support of the council, I would also be fine with that.
Dan, any other nominations?
I would nominate Dave for secretary.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other nominations? Then we'll take a vote for secretary. All those in favor of Henry being the secretary, say aye.
We probably should.
Make a motion. You'd like Henry to be secretary, Melissa? Anybody else? Okay, then Dave to be secretary. Who's in favor of that? Okay.
Out of respect to you, Henry. You don't.
What?
Out of respect to you, you don't need any more heavy lifting or workload with your family and everything else, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't feel bereaved about not being secretary. Don't worry about me.
So we have
That's not picture I've ever.
5 votes for Dan
And I've worked
to be
with
secretary. So
No,
he'll be
Dave.
I've worked with
Dave.
dispatchers.
Thanks. Okay, and then
What happens?
all in favor of Dan as being the treasurer? Are you still inclined to be the treasurer? All in favor?
Boy, that looks unanimous.
That is pretty unanimous. Okay,
Doing a great job there.
so we have a slate of officers for the new year. Okay, very good. Thanks everyone for participating. Anything else on our annual organizational meeting? Otherwise, we'll move on. Or we want the new chair to take over right now, or what do we want to do?
Go ahead.
Two things on while we're doing organization. I would request that the new chair take over since we're done with that. But I'd also like the council to revisit the committee assignments in light of change in the organizational structure.
Hey, you feel we need to do that tonight, or we put that up to the next meeting?
You know what, that's a good question. If we had bandwidth tonight, I'd say let's get on with it. We've got a lot of stuff to do. And I'd like to defer to the judgment of the new chair on that issue. But
By the
thanks
way,
for bringing that up.
I do agree that since we have elected a new chair, the new chair takes over right away. This is what happened in the planning commission meeting that I attended today.
Yeah.
The first thing they did was elected officers, and then they took over immediately. There was no transition, no.
Yep.
Can I offer a position as the, I guess, chair-elect? That's one of the reasons why I think the item was placed at the end of the agenda. So we could have our normal operation with the existing chair go through. Then we would have our appointment of or the election of our new officers, and then that chair would start at the next meeting. I think it's kind of, we lose our continuity right now. If we don't finish with the existing board and then, or existing council, and then have the new council officers seated at the next meeting. That's just my opinion.
Well, maybe since Robert is now, vice chair, you could, as chair, you could delegate Robert to continue with this meeting. So, yeah, that's it.
Well, if we're gonna do that, then I have no problem continuing from this point as the chair. Because basically all the chair does is kind of direct the meeting and look at the agenda and say, this is our next item. So I don't see that as a challenge. So if that's the council's wishes, I have no problem moving forward as the chair.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Robert for many years of being the chair of this organization, for his years of service and dedication, and the amount of time he's put into this.
Here.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I think Robert has done an extraordinary job over the years for this community. Keeping on top of a lot of issues, and he's got a lot of history, knows what's been going on, so it's important for me, and I hope for the rest of you that Robert continues as a very active member of our body. And thank you again, Robert.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Fantastic job.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you all.
So I guess is that the consensus that the chair switches over? Okay.
Yes.
Boy, after all that, council matters, there's no business listed. Item 7B is the Walla Services Committee, the Walla Parks Report. We have Dan, Henry, and myself on that committee. Do any of you have anything to weigh in on that?
Sorry, I'm actually gonna think I'm gonna go get myself some rest and do a little self-care for COVID. Hope it doesn't get any worse than it is now. So my apologies for missing the remainder of the meeting. Thank you all for getting that part done first.
Thanks,
Thank
Henry.
you,
Feeling better soon,
Get
Henry.
well.
This far.
Thank you, Nate. Yeah,
Thanks.
better soon.
Thanks. See y'all in February.
Take
Okay,
care, man.
with Henry's departure, that now makes Zach as a participating member tonight, so he'll be able to weigh in as well.
Feel the power, Zach.
I will just chime in, I think, definitely the people on the Park Services Committee received the recent communication from, Nadia Tipton from the county. Their landscape architect is on board. They had one site visit already on November 19th. County staff has already been notified that the community would like to be alerted of any other future businesses visits, because we would like to be there to participate and provide input as well. and staff indicated that they would pass that on to the landscape architect, that with Fixed Bower Park and the GMAC committee, that we do want to be an active part of it from the beginning and not come in at the tail end when everything's already been decided. Zach or Dan?
Go ahead, Zach.
In relation to the November 19th meeting, I know that members of the Fixed Bower Park Committee in particular weren't necessarily happy with the county not including them in that meeting. Do you know what the substance of that meeting was, and if there was any logistical reason why it wasn't, needed for public comment, or for public input or involvement?
We haven't had an official readout from the county. I would suspect it was an initial project walkthrough that is typical for all contracts, that the contractor and the contractee usually get together, walk over the site, look at the issues, but there's really nothing determined or discussed as far as the progress from that point. It's just an introduction. Here's where Bower Park is, so that they know where it's at.
That's kind of what I figured.
So I think, yeah, we didn't miss much by the initial kickoff meeting. But I think it's imperative that we're all involved in future meetings. Dan?
It seems like the county is receiving pressure from the public to engage local contractors and local people to work on the improvements. It's, they're indicating it's a bit premature and that they're going to go through the legally required bid process is always their response to that. I didn't expect anything significantly different from that, but it is good to know that the community seems to be pushing at least for local involvement in the actual work to be done.
Yeah, I know there at least one local contractor has already, put together numbers for tree falling, so whenever. That's the thing that I know that the committee's really chomping at the bit. We don't want the local contractor to miss the opportunity to put in his bid. So I think that's just one main concern when it comes to communication between the county and the community.
Yeah.
But there's definitely local contractors that are interested.
Yeah. Any questions from the rest of the council? Seeing none, we'll move on. John?
You mind?
No, go ahead.
I would like to be more appraised of what's happening at the park, and I know I haven't been part of you guys' discussions before, but I did indicate to the county 2 years ago that I'd like to be able to bid on some of the work at the park. And that did not go well with the county because they quote had their other local contractor to do that. So if there's some way that I could still be part of the potential to see if we can help save the park, I would like to do some of that, if that's possible. So if you could include me.
I would say,
email to me or-
yeah, I would say that your best bet right now would be to contact the county, contact Janelle Rao and Nadia Tipton. They've got a very large mailing list that they're updating. Everybody who's indicated an interest in Bower Park, they're providing regular updates. I can go ahead and forward you the last communication, but I definitely, we're just an advisory, so we're in the same boat as you. We have really no authority as to who the county selects as subcontractors and contractors to do the work. They have their regulations. So I would say contact them directly, make sure you get on their green list. And so their landscape architect will know who they can reach out to locally when they start the bidding process for different services.
That's really a long distance for me to go to get to the park, so. Difficult to move my equipment.
Yeah, you're only 3 doors behind me, so I have to go even further. So why don't you think about me too?
That's why we don't have
So
stoplights.
if you forward something to me, Janelle and I have not had good positive communication in the past, so
Okay.
I just kind of backed out.
Then I will forward to you the communication.
I can tell you that I know that members on the Fixed Bar Park Committee are always been hopeful and interested and you being as involved as you'd like to be as you can, because your family's name is that park, you know? Yeah,
My dad donated it.
exactly, yeah, so, you
Anyway,
know,
I still have an interest in it and would like to continue with that. If we can find ways to save money and promote the park even better.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, thank you for that. Any other comments from the council? Seeing none, Robert, do you have anything on the affordable housing report?
I don't at this point, no.
Okay. Economic development report. We're still working, the committee is working with, committee of one, is working with Visit Mendocino and also Point Arena Merchants Association to get some sort of operation up and going here in Wallala. We have a local business that is moving forward with putting a visitor serving office together. And they're going to provide information for visitors and the public as well, residents. And they're in the process now of even looking at maybe putting together a magazine that they can hand out as well. That will probably be funded through donations, but I think a lot of the local businesses will be more than happy to purchase ads in that publication to really get the word out. Anyone have any questions on that?
That's still going through Jamie? Or
Yeah.
is she's still trying to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I did reach out on that in my capacity as the chair, so to say, of the visitor center down in Wallala. I did reach out to Sonoma Tourism Commission and filled out a grant to see if I can help the community with getting that going again. So keep me apprised. I wouldn't mind being part of that committee and trying to see a visitor center get established again. So
Well, good.
keep me in mind, okay?
I'd love to add another name
Yeah, I'm
to that long list of one.
happy to help wherever possible.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
GCAP committee, the committee is Finley, Melissa, Robert, and Henry. Henry's not on. Melissa or Robert, do you have anything to report out?
We haven't met as a committee. And other than what Dave told us last month that Caltrans is going to be coming down to the community, I haven't heard anything, no. I'm still in contact on my own issue, so I'll keep the council apprised on that.
I'm sorry, Robert, I don't understand what you just meant.
You guys had brought up the issue of conflict of interest, so I am still working on that. So
Okay.
I always bring that up under the GCAP, so.
Okay. Because I know that one of the last meetings you'd indicated that you would reach out to them and report back to us if any communication
Yeah.
was received.
And I will continue to do that.
Okay, and you haven't received anything yet?
No.
Okay.
Kevin, may I offer something
Yeah.
related to the streetscape?
Absolutely.
As John Bauer mentioned earlier, Caltrans has published a notice of determination with respect to the CEQA document, which is an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. That notice of determination has been published. As well, then, if one is interested, one can download a copy of the initial study mitigated negative declaration and all the pertinent documents associated with it. Also, the big news there for that project is that the Caltrans District 1 director has approved the project.
And so with the combination of project approval and environmental document being certified, we have now passed the primary milestone of PAED, project approval environmental document. It's a really big deal. Also last month, the Mendocino County Council of Governments approved the request by Caltrans to provide $1.2 million of regional transportation program funding. That's a portion of the $11.5 million direct allocation and a kind of an advanced maximum allocation of somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $18 million. That's a commitment of funds by the county governments of a limited supply of money. That if it is not spent on the streetscape, it will be very competitively pursued by other worthy projects within the county. But for the moment, the county agencies are committed to this project, have continued their commitment and support for the community of Walla and Caltrans District 1. So now the project is on schedule. Next steps include continuing work on design, which will be leading to final design. One of the next major steps as design is tightening up is the pursuit of right-of-way. And so Caltrans over the next year or two will be reaching out to property owners along the highway from whom additional right-of-way is needed for the state to achieve its project objectives. Those conversations will be private between the agency and landowners. Of course, the state, representing the interests of taxpayers, will be pursuing willing sales, willing transactions. But all property owners on the right-of-way have access to the condemnation process, which includes court proceedings and multiple appraisal values. That phase of the project is expected to be completed by 2025 timeframe. Otherwise, we look forward to this project continuing on schedule with continued support for construction starting in 2026. I will continue to monitor the project. My understanding is that Caltrans intends to make a presentation to the Mendocino County Council of Governments in February. I'm in communication with the project manager at Caltrans with the interest of them bringing that roadshow here. So we'll see what happens.
That'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.
Any questions for Dave, Robert, or Melissa?
No.
Okay, seeing none. Don, electric vehicle charging station or any other sustainable energy or other projects that may be going on?
Well, yeah, I don't really have anything new to report in terms of, electric vehicle charging stations. It's a real problem here in Gualala, finding a property owner that is willing, to give up a few parking spaces, for charging. So I don't know. We've had, some state programs come and go. There likely will be more over the next year or two, I'm sure, because the state is getting federal money as well as well as the existing state funds that are allocated. So yeah, more things will be coming down the pike, and hopefully, something will come up, maybe in time for a community center, redevelopment, for sure. There's some other things I could mention, but it's appropriate right now. It's not necessarily about electric vehicle charging. So.
I just have one quick question, and I know we have a property owner here. There's two types of charging stations. One, obviously, the supercharger that's provided by Tesla that you charge your vehicle in 30 minutes and you're gone. The other one, because it's a low kilowatt, the same amount of charging, if you need to charge 50% of your car, will take 4 or 5 hours. So my question is there a property owner that's willing to have a parking space in their, or on their property, basically taken up for 4 or 5 hours to try and get a 50% charge? Or is there another program that could get a hybrid between the low charge and the supercharger, that people can come here, get a charge within an hour or even 2 hours, where they can go shopping, go to a restaurant or whatever, but it doesn't tie up the business's parking lot? And I guess that's a
Well,
thought I had.
there are a couple approaches to handle that. One is putting a time limit, more or less. In other words, you say, okay, there's a standard rate, charging rate that the driver will pay for like 2 hours.
Mhm.
Then after that, if you're still plugged in, and I think Point Arena is this way, then you gotta pay a lot more. So that really incentivizes people to only charge for 2 hours.
Mhm.
But there's also options, and that's with sort of a standard, we're talking level 2 here, which is typically about 6.6 kilowatts. There are, however, level 2, 220 volt charging systems available now that will go up to 19 kilowatts.
Mhm.
And with 19 kilowatts, not all vehicles, electric vehicles, will support that level of level 2 charging,
Right.
but a Tesla will,
Mhm.
as far as I understand. Now with that, a Tesla could get about 60 miles of range in 1 hour, which is not bad at all,
Mhm.
if you think about it.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, that's excellent.
Mhm.
What's the time element on that one?
In 1 hour with the 19.2 kilowatt charging. And these are fairly new. It does take like 100, something like, well, it takes, bigger circuit, but still 220 volts. So 100 amp circuit, roughly. So you're gonna need larger circuits, but these are all standard, So, yeah, and they're gonna cost more too. But that will give you the highest level of charging with level 2. It doesn't go any higher than that. So, I mean, to me, an ideal charging station for Gualala would be at least 4, if not 6, level 2 chargers, because it takes up less space. And then maybe half of those, or maybe only 2 of them, the 19.2 kilowatt level. And the rest just standard, because
Okay.
most of the vehicles will only support the standard 6.6 kilowatt charge, or in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
So that would be kind of ideal, because when we're talking about DC fast charging, which you're familiar with as a supercharger, Tesla. Well, that takes more space.
Mhm.
How much more space? Like,
Maybe
in relation to
we're
the
talking,
parking spot?
say for 4 charging positions. In other words, maybe to charge 4 vehicles, you need 5 parking spaces with level 2.
Mhm.
1 parking space is required for ADA compliance.
Mhm.
With DC fast charging, you not only need those 5 spaces, for 4 vehicles, ADA space, but you also need the space, which may be 2 or 3 parking spaces in total, for all the electronics in the power units, which are large. And Tesla has to have these too. Every DC fast charger needs these power units. Then you need more space.
Mhm.
However, there are alternatives. I mean, it gets a little complicated, but there are companies that have this like single DC fast charger, which will support 2 vehicles. So that means you need 3 spaces. And everything's in 1 unit. The power unit, and then there's batteries too.
Mhm.
So that's an alternative as well, which I really like, because it's more resilient. In other words, if power goes out, you can still charge your vehicle.
Right.
As long as there's, the charge in the batteries. And for us out here on the coast, I think that makes sense, having some kind of resilience capability. And there are other approaches too for this. For example, what Sebastopol has in the park is a level 2 charger, which can charge 2 vehicles. And then a solar canopy, which is built in. And underneath the solar canopy are batteries. So it charges during the day. And, you know, then you can charge your vehicle. Even if the power's up. As a matter of fact, it doesn't require any electrical connection. They just bring a truck, drop this thing, takes one parking space, sits in one parking space. Drop it off, unfold it. And it's on. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Nice. Dan, you had a question?
I do, what's that program that we were looking into last year? That was providing money for charging stations on public land on the Highway 1 corridor. Has that expired?
Yes,
Okay.
that is over with. The county did apply for that. And supposedly it's supposed to find out maybe this month whether they won the award. But because of the restrictions of that particular program in terms of being on Highway 1, which is a special corridor, they call it alternative fuel corridor. The minimum installation was 4 ports and DC fast charging. So this was like a potentially at least $500,000 setup. 20% would have to be paid for by the property owner. So that's $100,000.
Yeah,
So-
but that was only for public land though, too, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, that wasn't.
No,
Okay, I
it could
thought
be
that
on-
was only for
it could be on
public.
private
Never
property.
mind.
But it has to be a public charger. It has to be
Right.
available to the public.
Of course.
It could be put on private property.
Okay, I just had a thought that it was.
It's a shame the fast charge takes up more space because it really should be the only, you know,
The other problem.
it's gonna be a tough sell to the American people as a whole to have to wait multiple hours, you know. It's gonna,
Yeah, but bear in mind that a lot of EV drivers, they don't need to, if they're driving up here, you know, from the Bay Area. They don't arrive here necessarily dead empty on the battery. Now, yeah, Tesla has a couple 100-mile range. You can get up, you get up here from the Bay Area, you still got range left. So you don't necessarily need a fast charger to charge up to 80% right away. You can do a couple hours, then be on your way, or you stay in this area, whatever. So I'm not sure we necessarily need a DC fast charging here in Walla. The other issue with DC fast charging we have to be aware of is it requires infrastructure. PG&E has to be able to deliver that power, and that's a lot of power.
oh, PG&E has to do something.
So they're not gonna guarantee that they can do it, especially in Guala.
No, I like the solar top, level 2, you know, if it takes up one parking spot, it's gonna be more feasible to have more, you'll attract more people to, most people that are staying overnight.
Yeah, and that
I
provides,
agree with that, so.
it provides resiliency too.
One quick question, then we'll move on. Is there anything that you have in writing with the various different charging opportunities that Robert and I could take as far as our economic development? When we talk to the local businesses, we could say, hey, here's a plan that is available, and these are the options, and we might get some interest that way.
I'd be happy to put something together for you.
That'd be great, because I think, well, Robert especially has the contacts with a lot of the businesses, and I believe if we get the economic development going, that we could probably get the businesses on board and all of a sudden be proactive and show them the options that are available to them. I think that would be within our purview as GMAC.
Yeah, sure.
And one quick question?
Yeah.
Is there any feasibility or possibility that the pullout would be a good location for a section of it to have that accessibility, like the south?
Caltrans pull out? Yeah.
Yeah,
we looked into-
Property wise, I'm sure, you know, that's why I'm
Well,
asking.
okay, we already contacted Caltrans on that a couple of years ago. Because we were looking at that, because it's very close to transformer there, and the power seems to be right there.
Yeah.
But
Would have been ideal.
it would have been ideal, but RCLC was not in favor of it. And also Caltrans said, well, the only way we can do that is we'd have to cede land to the county. Then we talked to the county. They were not interested.
Same reason why we couldn't put a public restroom there if we wanted to.
True.
All part of the plan down there.
Okay, any other questions? John, you got a comment? real quick?
We did a kind of a preliminary research into, fast charging stations on at least one of our pieces of property. And when you get into the fast chargers, like you said, Don, you're up in hundreds of thousands of dollars to put these things in. And they require that you have at least 5 parking places set up for it, and then you get stuck with, if this is going through the coastal zone, these need to be handicap or priority parking places as close as you can get to a consumer facility, so it's not out in the back parking lot someplace. So the return is not guaranteed, and there's no real grant money out there to say, here, we'll build it for you and let you have a percentage of it once you start charging cars. So, you know, in our position, looks like we're screwed. It looks like it is not gonna happen, and Don, I'm sorry, I wish we could. But you know, there may be more impetus and demand in the near future as the vehicles that are being produced are being forced to become electric. And that might generate a run on charging stations, who knows? But like, you know, like you said, a lot of our charging stations are not really being used. Point Arena was a pretty good example of not being used, and they just weren't making any money on those stations. But because people have their own home plug-in, they go 4 or 5 miles or 10 miles and come back, and they just plug it in. And so they're not having to deal with that. The other thing is, like I said, if it takes 4 hours to charge a vehicle, that's out of the picture. Doesn't work. So you're gonna have to have something that charges within an hour, get them out of there so that somebody else can take the spot.
Exactly.
And I don't know what else, you know, I can't do anything. This has to come down from the top to give us some opportunity. We are a perfect spot. Church Point to here to Point Arena, we are in a perfect spot in the middle. Anchor Bay might be close, but are there enough ancillary facilities there for people to want to stop and wait for half an hour?
Right.
No. Grocery stores, perfect.
Good point.
But, and restaurants, perfect. I don't know if we can find funding, Don, you worked really hard at this, and this doesn't look real promising yet.
Well, fortunately, we got someone who's active in that, and we appreciate that, Don, and just keep us apprised on what we can do and anything that's coming up. With that segue, Henry's not here, so Don, you get the telecommunications report.
Yeah, well, I don't have a whole lot to report. I mean, yeah, really, I just don't have much to report at all. Things are the same. Website is the same for the time being, so.
Okay. Robert, anything with the water? Or Melissa?
No, still the same.
No, water storage facility is necessary, is needed. Lots of rain, we should be catching,
That's a big pond.
we should be catching that water, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Okay, rebuilding committee report. Dave, do you have anything?
I'm hoping that you will.
We're in the home stretch. We're looking at presenting to the community a final draft version of the site plan, complete with model, all the bells and whistles, both the board of directors and the rebuilding committee have done a great job of crossing all the Ts and dotting all the Is and making sure that the project is going to be what the community wants. And we're very thankful for the community weighing in on that. And I will preface it by saying that I know that we're down to the final stretch because at our last meeting, we discussed toilets and paper towel dispensers. So I know that we're getting there. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're hoping with the board of directors approval and the concurrence of our architect, the thought is that we would like to do a formal public presentation around the 1-year anniversary of the building burning on February 13th. So we're hoping to,
Next month.
yeah. So we're right there, that we are that close that they're ready to, So once we decide our paper towel or hand dryer and our some of the other little odds and ends that is kind of the minutia of a major project, we're there. And congratulations and thanks to Dave for sitting on the committee and representing GMAC. But I think we're all going to be very, very proud of the project. And then the next step obviously will be to launch our capital campaign and listening to RCMS. We're in the same boat. We're going to have to look to the public to foot the bill because there is just no grant money available right now, even with the idea of a resilience grant. We're not getting anything from the federal or state government. So we're stuck right now. That's not to say that won't be the same this year, this fiscal year or the next, but we're hoping that we can break ground based on our architect's report. We're hoping to submit our plans to the county in May of this year. And with any luck in finding a contractor that has a window of opportunity, we would love to break ground in September. So that's a very aggressive plan. Melissa?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have a choice between towels and air hand dryers, down on the hand air dryers, because they've been shown to disperse massive amounts of droplets, aerosolized droplets of germs. There, it was done to be more sanitary because you didn't have to touch anything, but then they realized all over the place.
Well, and that was one of the things we discussed, and I won't belabor it because we're running out of time. That was one of the things that was discussed regarding the faucets. Do we want the automatic faucets that you stick your hand under so you don't touch any of the handles for water source, or because you don't know who's touched it before you, or do you go with the manual? So that was one of the key discussions we're talking about, is making sure that we're responsible to the community to minimize your exposure to germs. Hence also the hand dryers as opposed to paper towels. So yeah, but that's our final hurdle, but yeah, it's not insurmountable, but we're hoping to have a building, and it would be nice to, be able to have 2 beautiful facilities come online in the real near future. Right. Thank you. Any questions? None?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you gonna require for the community center a CDP?
What's that?
You're gonna require a coastal development permit or not?
No, we fortunately have an exemption because we had a fire. And so we have an exemption from the county that we don't have to do a CDP. The other bonus to having a fire, which you never wish a fire on anybody, but as part of that exemption, we also get an extra 10% on our building footprint. So we went from 6,700 to 7,400 square foot building.
If you use it, you know.
The idea is we're gonna use it because we can't get it after the fact, so it's
What do you do-
basically,
What do you do for the loss of parking then that you might incur?
we've got,
There's no.
we have 2.5 parcels that we're gonna be able to develop into parking, and that's part of what the architect is doing. It's not only designing the new building, but it's also designing a master plan that includes parking, because the county is looking at about 90 spaces right now that we're gonna need to provide. Now, that's not all paved. It's gonna be DG or some other material, but we're gonna be able to provide parking for about 90 additional, or 90 total spaces on that site, which is gonna be nice, because
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I'm tired of pushing cars out that are stuck in the mud after a paint take.
Possibility of part of that parcel across the street that had been originally planned by Walla Redwoods for a commercial establishment where we put larger meter boxes. I think we even put a fire sprinkler line out there. Plus, there's a fire sprinkler line over next to your east door.
Right.
That could be utilized if the building gets sprinkled. And again, I think it would be a good move. It's gonna cost money.
I think that is an excellent idea, and I think if you visit the board of directors or the community center and share that, yeah, because we're still taking public input.
Yep.
So, yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Kevin,
Yeah.
does the master plan include space for EV charging?
It has not yet, and part of it is because we're looking at some additional work on the property that is going to encroach upon some of the open space right now. So we're waiting till that determination is made, is what's going to be the impact on some of the open space area by some of the added amenities. And once that's in place, then we'll be able to kind of pigeonhole, you know, where the parking is, and if we have the ability to add EV charging. But one of the things that Don and I had a chance to talk to a contractor, and I'll share this real quick, is they're concerned about a long run. They basically wanted a short run off of the electrical source on Highway 1, which put it right there on the corner of the entrance to the community center, which I don't think that is something that the board or the community would like to do, is have someone drive into the gateway of Walla, and the first thing they see is EV charging. So I think, as you said earlier, the electrical source is going to be key, and I don't think we can find a long enough run to put it in some of the open space, but that's not to say it can't happen. We'll keep that window open.
What you were referring to there was a specific plan for DC fast charging. If you do level 2, I think, then that equation really changes in terms of distance and cost for putting in the line, underground, trenching, all that stuff. But the reason I bring this point up is because some of the grant money that I've seen in the past prioritizes shovel-ready projects. In other words, projects that where there's a plan and you're ready to submit application for building permit. And if you're not at that stage, you know, if you're starting from scratch, you're gonna have a lot less chance to get the grant money. So that's why I'm saying it's best to plan this, to put a plan in now, so that when the time comes, when the grant money's ready, you can say, yeah, we already have a plan, you know, and we can implement this and go for a building permit. Then you're gonna have a much better chance of getting money.
And that's a great point. And I think that's the intent of the board. The community center board is to pre-plan everything, to not only plan for now, but plan for 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So that's an excellent point, because why not let the county and the Coastal Commission know what we're planning on doing now? So when we decide to do it, then it's an easier hurdle than starting from scratch, as you mentioned, so thank you for that.
Sure.
David, LCP, or Robert?
Robert, want me to go ahead?
Go for it.
Is there something you wanted to offer? I'll defer to you as the superior officer in our organization. Anything there?
I have nothing, no.
Nothing. I have had no interaction with the county with respect to the LCP update. Our buddies with the Grassroots Institute, in addition to the coming to visit us last time, they also convened another session, another community workshop in December. I was unable to attend due to other commitments. I think it was pretty much a mirror of what we were presented with here, and similar type of conversation of strategic, looking to excite people about the process and to invite them to feel welcome and also to feel empowered to participate. I'm hoping to get back into the groove this month and hopefully be in a position to offer some more information to you all in February.
Great.
You're referring to Grassroots Institute, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what I said. Maybe I wasn't saying it clearly enough. But yes, they continue to be I think largely the leader, at least in the nonprofit realm,
Right.
getting out in front and staying there. Mr. McNamee's quite talented and energetic. I think we're fortunate that we have them as our colleagues at the coast.
Okay. Oop, I see an item that we did forget. Well, we can put it on the next one. We did the annual organization, Zach, our GMAC Facebook.
I have an agenda item, you guys.
You did. And you're official, so, you know.
Yeah, I just had an idea. I think that community engagement is really important. I'm sure we can all agree on that. I feel like it's not very likely to get members of the community that may be interested in the meeting to always show up in person, although I enjoy that. I enjoy when we have people here in person to talk to and hear from. I think that having a Facebook page would better advertise, especially the Zoom link. I think if we were to, I noticed, in respect to the agenda as it shows up on the PDF on the website, this Zoom link isn't clickable. You have to manually type in the Zoom link if you go on the website to attend the meeting. So
What have been applicable this time?
was it clickable? Because I've looked in the past and all I see is the agenda with the link not actually clickable. I might be wrong about that, but that's just an aspect of having a Facebook page that I think would be helpful. And I'm not talking about having a Facebook page where there's back and forth between us and the public. That would make it too, I think it should be a one-sided relationship where it's just an outlet to advertise the upcoming meeting and possibly make the Zoom link. Is that clickable?
That's clickable.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I feel like if we had a Facebook page.
I know what happened.
Uh-huh.
And it's fixed.
Cool.
So
So I bring that up just because not everyone is going on the GMAC website in the first place. And lots of this community operates through Facebook, trading posts, whatever. So I think it would be a helpful interface to make it easier for members of the public to tune in. Even the couple clicks it takes to get onto the GMAC website and then go to the link. Lots of people aren't going to do that. I feel like if we made it easier by having a Facebook page that people just go on, it's a single click. I think it might up our numbers, at least on the virtual attendance. And it might actually integrate the community involvement. More and more people might actually also show up, in person. So I know that I know that it takes a little bit of labor to have a Facebook page. That's not lost on me. I'd like for it to be if we were to do it, I'd like for it to be as minimal effort as possible. Similar to, the effort it takes to update the website. I'm not necessarily volunteering myself for that. I'd be happy to help. I don't have Facebook, but I know I could do it if it's something as simple as, like just an easier interface to communicate to the public, agendas and a Zoom link. That's literally like the capacity that I'm thinking of a Facebook page being. Or anything of any other upcoming community meetings, like if we wanted to post, the next community center public meeting, that's something that GMAC can just provide on its page for the public to see. I think it would be a nice little nugget to help.
Flower Park.
Exactly, yeah. Just like a one-sided relationship to where GMAC can more effectively reach out to the community, because I don't know anyone outside of us that goes on the website like by themselves.
Any thoughts from the council?
One of the important things to learn about being in a volunteer organization is when you come up with a good idea, you gotta get ready to do it. I'm just kidding. I'm not capable of implementing a Facebook page, but I think, Zachary, that it's a good observation that sometimes more options for access is better. I very much appreciate and I agree with you that it ought not to be an interactive page, although people who access Facebook really have an expectation of this.
Right.
They're conversational, that's the strength of the platform. But to the extent that a page could be offered up as a one-way information out, I think that's really important. It's another channel. And it is a channel that, I agree, a lot of people in our community seem to use Facebook, even though it's kind of a Wild West.
It is.
Space.
Yeah.
That's one area where I really appreciate the rigor and discipline of a website. But anyway, having said all that, I agree that it's something worth considering. Just a small caution. Again, the thing about Facebook and its culture is that when something goes up, if we begin to get into the business of presenting notices other than us, is that there will be a possibility, not that it's a fatal flaw, but there's a possibility of expectation that we're somehow covering all the public meeting opportunities, that it's where we would attempt to lend a hand, there might be misunderstanding about what that hand is. So if we do implement, please consider language that makes really clear to the visitor that, hey, this is the best we're doing. This is again offered as a secondary channel for convenience. And that really all the business of the GMAC is still on the website, which means the agendas, complete record of minutes, documents that have been published. We're not going to attempt to essentially replicate that storage and that entire essentially that facility through Facebook. But otherwise, I think it's a really good idea.
I agree with that point, and if I were to elaborate on it, I would just say that that makes complete sense. So if the least we could do, if we were to have a Facebook page, is provide a link to the web page in the GMAC website where you can then click the link. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Cool. Dan?
Another thing we might consider is seeing if the admin at Wallala Trading Post will allow us to piggyback into their page or linking out of their page. Because there's a lot of people use Wallala Trading Post.
Yeah.
And it has things for sale, discussions, and so on, and you can maybe get a heading under there that would either link our page to it, or we could become a sub-page of theirs, or something like that.
That would make it even more convenient in many respects.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of traffic on there.
If that's kosher, I think that sounds like a great idea.
I'll find out who the admin is and get you the info. I think it's Cheryl, but I'm not sure.
And as far as the page itself, like I'm more than happy to take the initiative to make the page. I'm about to be a father of two. I'm a pretty busy guy, so I can't commit myself to a lot, but I do. I wanted to bring it to the council because I think it is important for the future of the outreach. Because this is a public meeting,
Yeah.
but it doesn't always feel like it, and it'd be nice if we were able to make it a little easier for the public to be engaged or feel more engaged at least.
Don, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what some of the comments have been here regarding Facebook. I do agree with Dave that if we do something like that, we're not gonna be just duplicating everything that's on the website. We'll put all the basic information on the website and the links on Facebook to the website.
Correct.
And or in particular, the agenda. And maybe notice, if there's something of real community interest that's happening, which doesn't happen, in my mind, every meeting, but some meetings like tonight, there's real community interest, I think, in this.
Well, highlight,
Tonight.
yeah.
Or the meeting we had on the local coastal plan, these are important topics that the community may and often does have a real interest in. So, the advantage then of Facebook is that could provide some promotion
Yeah.
to a meeting when we have a topic of a real general interest to the community. If we're just dealing with, a meeting where there's, basic reports on what we normally do, I think that's less interesting.
Yeah,
for
I
most
agree.
people. But, certain meetings like tonight's, would potentially generate a high level of interest, and Facebook certainly would help to promote that. But again, I don't necessarily want to do it, although, I could. I used to be on Facebook, it was a lot, then I just quit because overall, I think for a lot of people, it ends up being psychologically a negative experience.
Yeah.
Even though, yeah, it's great to connect with everybody, or whatever, then you get into all this thing about likes and not likes, and
Which is why I think it's important that we keep it as simple as possible.
Downsides. So, but if it's just a platform to make announcements for us, we certainly don't want a Facebook page in order to allow people to make comments uncontrolled.
Exactly. We don't want that at all.
We do not want that.
We just want the portal open. It can be as dry of a page as we want it to be, and as we don't want to have it to get muddy like that. I think we all have the same understanding as to the limit of the capacity that we want it to be. It's just a simple interface thing. We want to have something more than just the website for it to be easier for the public to see it and to remember that, some people forget that GMAC exists, to be honest, and I have lots of friends that are within my age group that are interested in the meeting, but they're deterred because they never know when it's happening. They're never reminded. And then if they do seek it out, if there's technical difficulties and they can't just click that link, then they're not going to be on it. So I think it would behoove us to just do the bare minimum of a Facebook presence just to have that. So that's just my 2 cents.
Unfortunately, Henry's not here.
Right.
Is that something that the telecommunications committee could vet with Zach's participation and just let us know if there's any reasonable opportunity? Because I know Henry's very tech savvy.
Yeah.
And if anybody would know the nuances of Facebook, he probably would. Is that something you guys could brainstorm and maybe come back to the next meeting and let us know if you think, yeah, we should pursue it or no?
Yeah, I think, the 3 of us could have a conversation, because that's, we're still good in the Brown Act with 3.
Yeah.
Outside of this meeting format.
But I think that would,
I think we could do that.
So
yeah,
I
you
think
guys could fully vet that.
I think that's a good idea, because I was gonna ask, in what way could we write down and agree on the parameters in which the Facebook page would operate? So we have to all agree on what is or isn't done on it, and then, go from there.
Good, I look forward to that. Okay, in the essence of time, and because Henry's not here and Henry's a part of the bylaws committee, and he's also the one that was doing the self-editing while we had our meeting. I would propose to the council that we table that to the next meeting, and or if the council's pleasure, do we want to schedule a special meeting? Dave?
I don't believe it serves us for this to linger. So I'm willing to allocate time for a special meeting so that we just put this thing to bed.
Okay.
And yeah, anyway, let it go.
The rest of the council, what's your pleasure, Dan?
I concur with what Dave said. I think a dedicated meeting to just that topic will be a lot more productive than trying to squeeze it into one of our general meetings. It always seems to get, we're gonna be here till midnight and later if we try and stuff it into a regular meeting.
Right.
And I'm not in favor of that.
Okay. Melissa, do you have any thoughts? You're on the committee.
I agree. I think we should put it off for a couple of weeks so we can have another meeting. The committee can have another meeting.
Well, the committee got together after the last meeting.
Yes,
and
we had one.
we incorporated all the council work that we did on this. On December 15th, we got together and we prepared a document that encompasses all that. So I have a PDF of that if you want me to send it out to everybody. And then we take off from there.
Please do.
And if you wanted the committee to get together before we have this special meeting, we could try to work on the rest of it for review. And then it's up to you guys.
Okay, let me offer this. Would the group check your calendars for the week, and you don't have to let me know tonight, you can email me. The week of the 22nd, let me know your availability. So that gives 2 weeks of Robert, if you and Melissa and Henry want to meet as the bylaw committee, you can do so. But be prepared that, yeah, we're going to have one workshop and we're going to hash it out and we'll walk out with a finished product the week of January 22nd. So let me know. Oh, are you out of town? No.
Just like to add on that, I think it's great, and yes, I'll make myself available. Anyway, the week of the 22nd makes sense. Robert and committee members, could I request instead of a PDF document that you distribute the edited stuff in Microsoft Word?
Okay.
PDF is great from a stability standpoint, however, it's a bear to edit. I mean, that's the thing that I offered the committee last time was so unwieldy that I think it would facilitate our work together if we were able to edit the document, and track changes, which is a lot easier to look at.
Yeah, we got it in printed format from Henry. And then I just made a PDF of it, but I could probably make.
Oh, I see.
Something else of it, can't I? I have to look at my scanning capabilities. There's other, you name the PDF, there's other ways to scan it.
Oh, so the PDF that you have.
I had a
essentially-
printed copy from Henry. He printed it to a
And then you
printer.
marked it up by hand.
No, it was in final format
Oh,
from
okay.
what we had all done as a council. And then I took those pages and made a PDF out of it in case anybody wanted it tonight. I could have printed it and sent it to you.
Okay.
Or give it to you physically. I have a couple of
Why
copies.
didn't they give you the original file, well, then,
I'll give you the original.
well, if you have the original file, it'll be a lot easier for you to manage.
I don't have that. Henry does.
Okay, let's get it from him.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure.
And again, I appreciate the PDFing and again, it's great in lots of ways, but
That's
boy,
great.
Yeah,
the bear to work.
when you're editing, you'll want to use.
It's a nightmare. Yeah.
It's more difficult.
Final version is great.
Yep.
Right.
I don't even have it in pages. I think he does. Henry does.
What's in pages?
This 3-page edit review that we did last meeting.
Okay.
And we
Great.
sort of.
You know, what's in pages, we can, it can be exported into documents or whatever for poor souls who are still on Windows.
Sorry.
So, okay, Dan, you got a comment?
That's all right.
In terms of the time constraints, I just want to remark that Friday the 26th is the first night of the Lions Club crab feed.
Ooh.
And since the 27th is pretty much sold out, we're going to the 26th. So I expect to see you all there.
Thank you for that plug. I appreciate
Yes, you
it.
bet.
Is there gonna be a vegan option?
Yeah, they've got a separate selection of crabs that have just been eating vegetables.
One last part on that, please let me know right away. Depending on the numbers, I know someone that has a key to the community center and we could probably meet up in the upstairs in their conference room. So that way we won't have to try and reserve another facility, and it's convenient. There's a table, we can sit around it.
Needs to be a public.
And we won't, yeah, and we won't have to, and it will be a public meeting.
Cause this is a full council.
Yeah.
Special meeting, okay.
Yeah. And we won't have to pay for it. At the community center, the one that's still standing.
Above the bookstore.
Above the books.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Pay and take. The upstairs and pay and take.
Because if we keep eating a burned down building.
You wouldn't need a key.
That's true, we wouldn't need a key. Good point.
Is that ADA accessible?
No.
Upstairs?
No,
Okay.
that might be a
Asking.
problem.
That's a problem. I don't think that's.
Okay, let me,
Meeting, it'll be a problem.
yeah, let me see if
What
we
about
can,
here? We could maybe,
We'll have to ask.
okay, do you wanna, Robert, can you ask?
Dan and I can ask, yeah. We've asked, what's the
Okay.
name out here in the audience?
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Would that cost us extra?
Probably, but not that much.
okay. Good point about the
Want
ADA.
me to ask,
The guy-
Bronwyn or whatever her name is,
Bronlin, or I always forget her first name.
Miss
Okay.
Golly?
You wanna ask her then? Is
Yeah,
that-
sure.
Okay, so
Okay.
Is the water district open? Is the water district office or conference room open?
Not usually on Friday.
How about midweek?
Yeah, it's usually open and the conference room may be available, if that's what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
For a meeting. Call them, see if they've got an opening. Right now, it's not really being used for much.
So should we talk to David or Julie?
Dave, maybe?
Okay. I'll do that. I'll talk to David because that would be good at the water district conference room.
It's just if it's gonna be on a, on this kind of a setup, it's all ready to go here. I don't know how it is at the conference.
Well, we don't have to do Zoom.
No,
That's not-
no. All we have to do is just make it a public
We're not
notice.
doing Zoom.
Special meeting, it's gotta be in person, no Zoom, and if I
Right.
might ask, it's the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th. Those are my best days.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
So go ahead and let me know your thoughts. You don't have to let me know tonight. Okay, I'm trying to squeeze a lot of things into one quick meeting. So possible future agenda items. I know this was on the last
These were-
agenda as well.
Yeah.
And I know Don was the one that brought this up. So Don, I'll let you kick it off regarding sending emails to all members. You had sent an email out with your concerns about emails going to all members. Do you?
Well. The only concern of mine was, which I think all of us understand, is that, if one of us sends an email to everyone on the council, it should only be an informational item. Not to invite any discussion of that topic. I think that's okay under the Brown Act.
Yes.
We can do that.
Okay.
We just can't have this conversation going on with emails back and forth among us. Now, I think it's okay though, if one, let's say I send an email out to everybody. If any other member receiving this email wants to respond directly to me,
Right,
I think that's okay.
don't reply all.
It's not, you just don't reply all,
Right.
but I think that's okay.
It's okay to the point where your feedback coming to you and the interactions you have is still with the minority of the council. I think probably, if I might recommend then, as the new secretary and some procedural orientation, there's really no problem with pushing out to everybody. Pushing out, it's a one-way street. However, I think we do ourselves a big favor by not having to continually evaluate the nuances of the Brown Act constraints. That we just simply do not engage in electronic back and forth. Unless it's the back and forth of an established committee that limits itself to that group of people. Does that make sense? So it's a simple rule to remember, then we're not constantly trying to remind ourselves and interpret, how things kind of shake out. Again, one way out can go to everybody and ought to go to everybody if we're pushing out information. And as secretary, I promise you, I will be pushing out information that comes to me that has value to everybody, particularly in advance of our meetings. Our choke points is we get a lot of stuff at the meetings and we just haven't had a chance to think about it, and that slows us down. And then communication amongst committee members, again, it's kept to the assigned committee members, doesn't go any further than that. We don't have a Brown Act issue.
Okay, well, let me give you an example of a situation where I think maybe sending out a global email to everyone and then having individual members respond to the sender could make sense and maybe is not a Brown Act violation. So let's say we needed to establish a date for something. So I send an email out to everybody. Okay, guys, we have the choice of this date or that date. And if everybody individually responds directly back to me with their comments, then I will have the information. All right, and then we have a date set.
I see.
That's just an example.
Right.
Let me be further clear then.
Yeah.
That administrative matters are not generally entrained in Brown Act issues. Brown Act typically, most specifically pertains to matters within the jurisdiction of an entity's discretion. So we won't get into the debate about what our jurisdiction is or what kind of discretion. But we do take actions that record the sense of the group. But administrative stuff, it really isn't about that. Furthermore, response from push out. Somebody writes back and says, hey, I can't get that PDF to work. Can you just send me a different type of file format? Even that is not, it's an administrative issue. It is not a matter to the Brown Act. So to your example, administrative stuff, we can go nuts. And hopefully we don't, but again, there are very few restrictions. If we all mind the manners of, we're not going to talk about content. We'll be in a position to receive content, and the quicker the better, but not discuss it. This is any for discussion of content.
Okay.
So scheduling a special meeting,
Not an issue.
not a problem. Everybody can get in there and say,
Yep.
I'm here, I'm not there.
Yep, it's really going to be more of the email inbox dog pile problem.
Yeah.
Which, we'll manage that as adults.
And I believe what triggered this was the massive email from the county regarding Bower Park. And I know she's got Don, she's got Robert, she's got Zach, she's got Dave, she's got Henry, Dan, and me. So the only one that is not on that massive email was Melissa. So that's why the idea was, well, we got 6 of the 7 council members on that email that's coming from the county. We might as well make sure that Melissa gets it as well. So all council members are privy to the communication from the county. One thing that we can also do to avoid a serial meeting would be to have all dissemination of items go through the secretary. And then what the secretary can do is put to Dave Shpak and blind copy the council. That way you cannot respond wherever in a serial meeting. You can only respond to the sender. And that's one thing that they use to avoid a serial meeting is you have Don Hess as the recipient, and then you have everybody else under blind copy. You don't run into a Brown Act violation that way. It's because there's no way that anybody can respond to everyone.
Okay, so
Get that.
as a practical implementation of this policy that we're talking about, I suggest that Dave, as secretary, you send an email to all of us about this date for the special meeting, because I don't have my calendar, I can.
Yeah.
Right.
My calendar would be up on the screen.
Okay.
I can't access it right now. My phone's over there. You know, I can't tell.
I'll send the query to everybody.
Good.
I'll run the query. And I'll tell everybody what my favorite dates are
Sure.
anyway, and we could just pile it up. And then at the end, it's gonna be, you said in the meeting and running that. Okay,
Great.
you got it. Just one last thing on BCC. I would rather we all, as responsible members of the council, deal with our own hygiene issues rather than the BCC. The problem with BCC is you don't know who got it. So it tends, while it does protect members who receive BCC from making an accident, to some extent, we don't know who got it. And I'd rather we were informed about, again, these types of issues. Everybody here sees who got it. If we have it, if we need a correction, then we deal with it. Those corrections can come directly to me if I'm the initiator or any one of us. If there's an error, then yes, do respond back to the center. So I don't mean to be argumentative. It's just, I think BCC is, it doesn't quite do everything I'd like to by way of disclosure and sharing information. Okay, so I will, as a next step, and I'll send out a query to everybody regarding our special meeting date.
Okay, seeing the time, I think we've definitely done a lot this evening, and I thank the council for your support in your selection of officers, and I look forward to carry the torch that Robert has done for 15 plus years. And has it been that long that you were chair?
I got to be chair, I think it's 15 or 16.
Okay. So I hope to follow in your footsteps, and please, all the council members, you have my email address. If you have any suggestions or ideas, please let me know. Yeah, this is our show, not my show. So I'm just a guy that sits here and asks for everybody if you want to adjourn. So with that, Melissa?
I'd like make a motion that we adjourn.
Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Excellent. Thank you. And we got out of here a minute to 9.
Hell yeah.
In the words of my favorite